Hi, hey, listen, what's the best way to do this? This address will only go to Stuart Matrang and Jay Gisson if it's on YouTube and you get this someday. The best way to put it is just to put it on YouTube and then I can transfer it around. If it's private, I could sending it in an email is a pain. You just put it on YouTube, then it can go anywhere. And I may send this to my brother Billy. I just don't want to bore you. I don't know how long this is going to go on, but you ask me some questions, and you know how what happens is you say later, oh, how come I didn't say this? I have all these notes, very desultory, not ordered, but I saying, well, how can I put a video together that will say succinctly what I think? And then I was going to put together notes. I realized I have all these notes. I just always scribble and write. In fact, I was going to lie right now and say I just write them all the time. But actually, it's like when Jay comes over, Stoke comes over, because I want to remember to say something, you know. And then they leave, and I'm sure this happens to you. And I forgot to say that. So I'm going to go. But before I get totally desultory, which has many meanings, desultory has many other meanings. One of them is what I'm doing right now, rambling. But the main thing is the promise that by our present president during the campaign, I will rebuild the inner cities. You see if this isn't true. Let's leave print media aside just for a minute. Isn't it true, and the TV and the CNN, MSNBC, leaving print aside for a minute, that you get 10 seconds of Trump? See if I'm not right. 10 seconds of Trump and 15 minutes then of Rachel Maddow telling you what to think, right? Then she's followed by a roundtable discussion of eggheads with big glasses on, and they tell you what to think. Now, guys, gals, in the age of new media, social media, when it's really the Protestant Reformation, we knew that the internet was the same as Gutenberg printable, movable printing press, right? Movable type on the printing press. It freed everything up. We all know this. And the Protestant Reformation comes 20 some years later in 1517, right? And notice 1517, 2017. Things line up. Hubert always said, follow time. Look, actually, what he said is, if you want to know what's going to go on today, look back 100 years from now. And 100 years ago, of course, was the Bolshevik Revolution. But anyway, 1517, 2017, the Protestant Reformation, Martin Luther puts the 95 Theses on the floor, is it in Wittenberg? And what happens? It's the liberation. We don't need you anymore, as you all know, perverted bishops and Catholics, and there are good Catholics, I mean good bishops and cardinals and stuff like that, but we're going to go directly to knowledge. We can read now. That's what social media is. And now social media is also being hit by censorship. YouTube, censorship. Google, the head of Google, Sinjot, whatever his name is, had to go meet with Trump. I have a feeling it wasn't his idea, it was Trump's idea. Why are you helping the Chinese military censor the cabal of Chinese military, of old generals that run China and enslave their own people? Why are you helping China, but you won't work with the U.S. military? Anyway, after this Revolution 2.0, hashtag Internet Bill of Rights. Remember that, hashtag Internet Bill of Rights. We've got the American Revolution 2.0 going on right now. Why? Because we're getting our real independence from the central bankers. Jay, you're reading now about, what is central banking? It puts good working people into debt. And when you have bankers who create money out of nothing, then it's bad enough. But when you allow them to create and control the currency of a nation, and we get our money by borrowing from the Fed, that means we're immediately in debt. Every dollar in your pocket is an IOU to the Federal Reserve, which is what? The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve of New York, which is what? A cartel, a monopoly of bankers. And by the way, the Jews didn't come up with any of this. The Jews were the first to outlaw not only human sacrifice, and they get blamed, oh, they kill Christian children. No, they were the first to outlaw interest. Banking comes from Babylon. It was the Hebrew people who said, thou shalt not lend an interest. I don't think they said thou back then, but you know what I'm saying. Don't lend an interest, and that's wrong. And it was also the beginning of morality is Abraham. There's no morality. In fact, this is a point. I'm going to ramble a little bit. There was no concept whatsoever that Zeus loved you or created you or was your father. He was not your loving father god Zeus, even though the Zeus idea, The Zeus idea comes later, and the classical age agrees comes later, but it's way early before. It's an earlier wisdom, the time Homer's writing about. Homer's writing about 700 years before him. In other words, what I'm saying is before there was Abraham and Moses, there were the Greek gods, and they're probably the Lakota gods and the Iroquois gods. But you know what I mean? If we're going to look at it, here's another rambling point. Phil Bloom, who you all know or know of, Billy, you know, Stu, of course, you know, and you heard of him because Hubert must have reported to you, Jay, that Phil Bloom was going to take over Rockville. But Phil Bloom just outlined biblical history, and you saw, okay, just remember, Moses is it's really 13, but 1500 years before Christ, 1,000 years of the age of the kings, and then 500 years before. But anyway, when you say bankers, you don't mean Jews. Andrew Jackson was the first president to be shot at while president. He'd been shot at before. Other presidents had been shot at. And I say shot at because, as you know, the pistol didn't go off both times. And I think the first second Andrew Jackson had his cane and started hitting the guy. And he's president. The guy had been shot enough times in his life, Andrew Jackson. Why? Because he opposed the national bank. A national bank puts people into debt. We don't want that. We want Jefferson's idea, where you create money as wealth, where you have maybe low interest banks just to keep the lenders in business. And who greets you when you walk into those? And bankers who care about the community. Bankers who are out there because our money is wealth. We're not creating and controlling currency to screw you, to put you into debt. We want you to be free, just like we want free energy. We don't want a technology that wastes and screws. We want free Tesla energy, and we're gonna find it. Just like we want life not to really lead to death, but to lead to more life. It's life and life only, Ma. And the same with sex. You have a titillation, and then it leads to a release, which is a death. La petite mort. The French call the orgasm. But what happens? It comes up again. It revives again. Because you see, I think on top of the conspiracy to prevent you from knowing you're a god and to keep you sick all the time, or that you're a genius or a hero, which is the son of a god, to keep you sick all the time, to keep you in debt, to keep you in war, there is that. But above that is a greater conspiracy. And the universe, I do believe, conspires to your benefit. The sun wants to come up. The sore wants to heal. The butterfly wants to become, you know what I'm saying? The caterpillar wants to become the butterfly. So Trump's going to bring down the Fed. I knew before he won, I said, number one, he's going to win, despite 2 dreams that Hillary won. And I don't believe in predictive dreams, I don't think. And I was bummed for a little bit. I said, nope, he's going to win. Number 2, I said, he's going to go after the Fed. He's going to go after Big Pharma, and he is, and he will, and you guys think I'm crazy. He's going to do 9/11 truth and JFK truth because it's all part of it. It really is about bringing back the honesty. And I know some people think New York State, he did shady things. You know what he was doing in New York State in the 80s? He was working with Giuliani and Robert Mueller to rout out the Sicilian Mafia. And he was doing it before Congress. And there's stuff on YouTube when he testified before Congress. And then what did he do in the 90s? He worked with Giuliani and I think Rod Rosenstein on what? The Russian Mafia. See, he's kind of squeaky clean. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. The whole comparison with Sinatra and Trump is good. But remember, Sinatra's a little ginzo. He's an Italian artist. Worse than an artist. He's a musician. He's melancholy. He's dark. He smokes. Trump doesn't have any of that, but there is a similarity between Trump and Sinatra, and I was happy to see that Camille Paglia said the same thing. Trump's going to end the reign of the Federal Reserve by floating gold. That one of the reasons they assassinated Kennedy was, Billy, you might remember the Thompsons, our cousins, they had silver, Mark would remember, silver certificates. Hey, we have silver certificates. Why? JFK was starting to end the reign, not only of the CIA and the military-industrial complex, but the Fed. They had to kill him, except he didn't have the relationship with the military and security and with cops, frankly, that Trump does. Trump's going to end the Fed. He keeps talking about the opioid crisis. That is his opening salvo on Big Pharma and other things. He's getting rid of the traders. Why? The plan was to bring down our country, to bring down the nation-state generally and the American nation-state particularly. Of course, they're doing it in Europe. My brother Mark is in Europe. He can say everything's hunky-dory over there, but they say Paris has fallen. Why? Because we hate Muslims? No. The Dulles brothers destabilized Vietnam by moving in the 50s to create, as you know, to create conditions for martial law and war by doing what? Moving the affluent Catholics in the north quickly down to the poor Buddhist south. Now, if we say that was bad and it was destabilizing, which it was, does that mean we hate Catholics? That doesn't mean we hate Catholics. It means it's just a stupid thing. Even the Dalai Lama, who I trust far more than this evil Jesuit Pope, the Dalai Lama said, Germany can't become a Muslim country. Germany is for Germans. And if we were going to, in the interest of some global aspiration, just end cultures and mix them up, well, then you try having people, you know, that maybe really dig Sharia law in your backyard and have them. See, we want a global community. We want the cooperation. We just don't want global government. Now, this is to Stu Matrang in particular because you talk globalism. I'm telling you, when I say the European Union is monarchy, I don't mean figuratively. I mean literally. Those are the crowned heads of Europe. We've got the British Empire, the Vatican. They all want to end the nation state. It's a con job. What do they want? What is globalism? What is Richard Branson being bought and paid for to do? And unfortunately, Springsteen and U2 now, because they made the deal Bob Dylan never made. Bob Dylan at the Tom Paine Award dinner, he said, screw you people, I'm not going to be your tool. And he saw it before his 23rd birthday. Bono, Michael Moore, Bruce Springsteen, Robert De Niro, they're all part of a machine. It's globalism. And yes, they're lying. I do believe it. I don't believe they believe what they're really saying, but more about that. We'll find that out. But the globalist con job using the Church of Sustainability and the gospel of climate change, and I promise you, if climate change science isn't a hoax, and I believe it is, even if it isn't, climate change politics is a hoax. Do you really think these royalists, who are literally the crowned heads of Europe, and their royalty, or at least part of royalty, or part of the peerage, you know, the dukes and the duchesses and the countesses and the countesses and the lords and the ladies and the barons and the baroness and the marquises and the marchioness and the earls and the... What's a female earl? A lady? Okay, do you think these people who are the European Union and the UN, right, they're blue bloods, do you think they care so much about us they're going to levy a carbon tax on us because they want to save the planet? Save the planet. I almost can't even stand sayings like that anymore. Save the planet, save the world, even though Save the World is a great George Harrison song, you know. But you throw away the Bill of Rights. Let's make no mistake about what globalism is. You throw away the Bill of Rights. Done. And you come under their unelected leadership. And it must be hard. It must be hard. Well, yeah, okay, I could listen even to what Bob is saying, but Bruce Springsteen is saying it, and Michael Moore is saying it, and Meryl Streep is saying it. Listen to what they say. They never say anything substantial. Robert De Niro, I mean, I think he did finally say one policy remark, but for the most, I want to hit him, I want to punch him, he's a dog. I mean, they're all playing a role because Hollywood's going on. Hollywood promotes globalism. Big tech, Silicon Valley promotes globalism. The Pope and the Vatican. The word Catholic literally means worldwide. The British Empire. The sun never sets on the British Empire. The EU, they're just royalty, and royalty means we common people are their food. We're their energy slaves. We're far from irrelevant to them, but they hate our fucking guts. The carbon tax will go down as the most corrupt thing since the church sold us indulgences that we were supposed to buy to shorten our time in purgatory. That's what I'm telling you. The carbon tax we're going to pay to a bunch of people who hate our fucking guts? Have I been really going on for 13 minutes? That's a lot to ask anyone to listen to. Oh, here's some Ragman notes. You want to know why he's president, she's not? Watch the second debate. That was right after the pussy tape. Grab Her by the Pussy could be the name of a Rolling Stones world tour. You know, can you see Keith? You know, I'm gonna grab her by the pussy. Give me a fucking break. Well, you're going to have a heart attack over a 59-year-old billionaire admitting in a private conversation that he has groupies. They just let you do it. Consent. You know, government that derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. You know, I'm going to grab her by the pussy. Oh, no. They just let you do it. Give me a fucking break. Stop being a zombie. Stop being a follower. Look, if they're teaching anti-Trump with your mother's milk, Stu can tell you it's in the kindergarten texts or lesson plans. Seriously. It's in the arts section of the New York Times. Don't you understand? If the Federal Reserve hates and fears you, and this guy Powell, he's going to put him in check. He got rid of Janet Yellen. The Fed is just slavery. That's all it is. The Fed came 50 years after emancipation. 1863 emancipation, 1913 Fed. Perfect, nice 50 years. Slavery, completely. Ron Paul. It's no accident the century of central planning, when you let a monopoly, a concern of private bankers create and control your currency at interest, putting you in debt, as opposed to what Jefferson and Jackson and Lincoln and JFK wanted, and William Jennings Bryan maybe wanted, which was a treasury that creates money as wealth. It's like, come on in. We don't want to screw you. We want your dreams to come true. Look, I recognize Gore Vidal's Schadenfreude, the great Gore Vidal saying, it's not enough that I succeed. Others must fail. I get that. Why don't we be honest in that we're all Seinfeldian? You know, that the beauty of Seinfeld is that it was honest about human venality. We have Schadenfreude. But that can't be the basis of our economy and our government. We got to go for a win-win. We want people to succeed. Don't you understand? The media is just a mouthpiece for those who engender war, poverty, disease, and death. That's all they're doing. Watch the TV. The only TV I watch is I go see Jeopardy with my father when I go to visit him. And I actually don't watch any program TV. I'm behind a screen too much at home, at work. I do not ever, like growing up as a kid, watch program TV, those commercials coming. And now it's even worse, right? They're advertising a new drug. Every day, literally every day. So who controls this? Big Pharma, the Federal Reserve, which is Big Pharma, Federal Reserve, and the media. So what was I saying? Ron Paul, it's no accident that the century of central banking is the century of World War. It's true. You're creating and generating debt. What's the derivative stuff that made everything go bust in 07, 08? It's you're creating and marketing debt, because as you know, to a banker, a debt is an asset. So they would take side bets like in a crap game over which businesses were going to fail. This was the basis of much of our economy, the derivatives. Anyway, all that funny stuff is being challenged. If the Federal Reserve hates and fears you, if the Vatican, disgusting Jesuit, and I'm a Catholic, I wouldn't have it any other way, but those evil Jesuits and the evil things they do, if they hate and fear you, they're all globalists. If they say the British royal family is bugged, I mean really bugged about Trump, he's coming after them, the Rothschilds, all those people that have held power. So who's they? You conspiracy theorists, all I'm saying is that what the CIA does to foreign countries, they do to us. You don't have to call it CIA, but just we'll use the quaint term. Black operations, psychological warfare, assassination, coup d'etat, rigging elections. The only proposition is they do it to us. Anyone who dismissively uses the term conspiracy theory hasn't really studied history. And I don't mean, and they're great books, your David McCullough book, your Barbara Tuchman, Ellis wrote great books. I mean where you study history. Take a dumb old survey course where, you know, the first volume of your text is from Babylon to the 18th century, and then the next equally large volume will be 18th century and now. So what? Find out what people are thinking, because I'm telling you, study that. You see things more clearly, the headlines, and you have to study the epic poems. And it's a good thing that you got to know the Bible if you're going to know what Western culture is about. What's going on? And you see through it instead of letting the media just manipulate you. And okay, who's they? Conspiracy theorists, whatever. Who's they? Who's they? It's not useful to talk about one day, but there are competing dynasties. There used to be competing dynasties, and we're dealing with the Vatican, the central bankers, House of London, Federal Reserve, probably the Rothschilds, who own every bank in South America, Vatican, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, the DC culture, the Muslim Brotherhood, Communist Chinese, and George Soros. And what are they? They're globalists. They want you to throw away the Bill of Rights and come under their unelected leadership. The European Union is unelected, their High Commission. Nigel Farage is such a hero. So these people who just want independence, they just want their lives back. They just don't want no rape zones in Sweden and Germany, and you get free housing if you're a migrant. And these migrants, where are the women and children? They're all military-aged men from Islamist countries, not Indonesia, not Malaysia, which are all Muslim and Islamic, holy, but Islamist countries. They want to push Sharia law, all those men in the street. And you can't fight them because the authorities in Europe will put you in jail, because we all know the plan of these globalists. Soros, the European Union, the Vatican, the British royal family, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Communist Chinese, the Hollywood, Silicon Valley, the DC swamp, and the Fed, the Federal Reserve, well, the bankers. They want to make China the ascendant, the China the great power, and destroy Europe. Paris has fallen with radical Islamic terrorism, and that's what they were going to do under Hillary. So in 2011, that's the plan. Hillary has to do what the Chinese want. She's been taking money from them. Bill Clinton, too. Bill Clinton got China into the World Trade Organization in 1999-2000. What does that mean? He was paying them back for all the money they have given him and Sam Walton of Walmart. They're now buying up Hollywood, where you need script approval with the Chinese to make a Hollywood film, right? You know that. So he gets China, the World Trade Organization. They hit us with 150% tariffs, and we don't hit them at all. Maybe 10%. Not at all. We're being creamed. Trade war. We've been creamed by them in a trade war for 20 years. Trump's just saying no. And what's wrong with Trump saying, I'm putting the American worker first? We want immigrants to come. 2 of his 3 wives are immigrants. Oh, he only likes light-skinned immigrants. Trump has businesses in Mexico and Puerto Rico. He has employees. He has associates. He's been there more times than anyone you know. And typically Trump, he doesn't speak Spanish, but you know, whatever, he should. But remember, he has more associates. He knows Mexico and Puerto Rico better than anyone you know. This idea, he said, you can't come in and catch and release. A guy who has 5 convictions in Mexico and maybe 2 more in the United States, we're going to catch him and release him because, wink, wink, he'll come back for his hearing 60 days later. Of course not. He's never going to come back. And it's crime. Don't let anyone tell you there's not a crisis on the southern border. So what's wrong? Ask the guards and the ICE and border guards, over 50% of whom are Latino. Who is hurt most by illegal immigration in this country? Inner city blacks. That's the whole thing. We don't want another lecture on diversity given by a graduate school, with body piercings. We want the inner cities rebuilt with low taxes, low regulations, and tariffs to get rid of those suckers, and a great market and people optimistic. We don't want another federally funded housing project where nobody owns anything and nobody cares. We want black entrepreneurship. We want business. We want self-sufficiency. We don't want the Democratic Party who basically keep you poor so you keep coming back and voting. Blexit is a huge thing in this country. Black exit from the party. I don't think Trump will even need it in 2020, but if 20% of the black vote goes to Trump, which is absolutely going to happen under Blexit. See, your New York Times doesn't really tell you that stuff. It's like all going over, and eventually the GOP will become the party. I mean, as the Dems largely are the party of African Americans today, the GOP is going to become the party because you keep talking to them like they're stupid. Like if you bring out Jay-Z, go check Candace Owens. She talks about this a lot better than I do. You bring out Jay-Z and Beyonce and think you're going to win over black voters. She goes, what, they think we're stupid? You know, they see it's about jobs. They've been lied to all these years. Thomas Sowell, no matter what Thomas Sowell does, he's in his 80s now, I can't believe it. They're going to call him the black conservative, whatever. Thomas Sowell, you've seen his name for years. What did he say? The welfare state has accomplished in this country what not even slavery could accomplish. The complete destruction of the black family. Single-parent black families in the 1950s, early 60s was 15%. It was still high for the time. Now, of course, it's increased for everybody. It's now over 70-some%. It's close to 75%. Close to 3/4 of the black families in this country are single-parent, mostly mother. They're incentivized by Lyndon Johnson, War on Poverty, welfare state programs. They built state. I know people in the South Bronx, they have kids to build the system. They all do this incentives. There was a thriving black culture before the Great Society. Now, the Civil Rights era was a great, beautiful, glorious thing. But I think making movies going back to the 60s now, I actually believe are counterproductive. They're saying that we have racism in this country because of rednecks, because of white guys in oily white t-shirts, a little too slow, goes using the N-word. Sure, that is and still is a problem, but it's not. There are more black men in prison than in college in this country. Who did that? Roseanne Barr? Rednecks? Trump? No, the Great Society did that. We went from 244 years of slavery to 110 years of Jim Crow to the prison system. Kill or incarcerate as many black men as you can. In other words, it was government policy, not rednecks, and the New York Times pits race against race every single day. You know what I mean? So the complete destruction of the black family. There were lawyers and doctors and professors and inventors and farmers among African Americans way before, you know, they were saved by the 1950s and 60s. There were artists and poets and theaters, and they're great stuff, but it was separate and not equal. We had to have the civil rights era, but we went from 244 years of slavery to 110 years of Jim Crow to the prison system. And now we have more black men. And who did that? Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton lets China into the World Trade Organization, which sucks our jobs away. He's been doing it when he signed NAFTA, which our jobs suck away to Canada and Mexico. Then he signs the crime bill, which puts more black men in prison than any other presidential act, and he already has done his apology tour. Then he signs the repeal of Glass-Steagall. What did he do? A few foreign policy things. He destroyed our country. And why? For his campaign contributions, because it's what his globalist masters want. Remember, the globalist masters want China ascended, the destruction of the West, and the destruction of the nation-state. The nation-state, the Jeffersonian nation-state, is the newborn baby with wild wolves all around it. So a guy comes around and says, I'm for you. You think that jobs leaving for China was as inevitable as the second law of thermodynamics? No. We're bringing those jobs back with tariffs, tax, and lower, and they're coming back. I'm putting you first. We want immigrants. I know Mexico and Puerto Rico well. The lottery system sucks. They don't send the rest. They get rid of people that they don't want. Mexico does, just like Castro did. Remember 1980 with the Mario? Well, he's not going to send his best. He said they're not sending their best. They're sending rapists and stuff, and he's right. It's not because he said over and over during the campaign, but you guys didn't watch that. You watched your 10 seconds of Trump and your 15 minutes of Rachel Maddow telling you what to think. In this day and age, when you've been freed by the internet and Gutenberg and Martin Luther and Jack, whoever runs YouTube now, you can go and see for yourself and think for yourself. Yes, I wrote a 55,000-word novel in 2016. I held on a full-time job. I got on the elliptical every day, which I'm not doing now, and I played music. I'm going to tell you, I think I watched every single Trump speech. There was absolutely no resemblance whatsoever to the evil lying that you're getting from the media. There are Nazi salutes. No, there's race baiting. It's anti-immigrant. 2 of his 3 wives are immigrants. You read it in the New York Times today, every day. And his anti-immigrant stance. No, it's not. It's not even a little bit. And you can hate Trump all you want. The savviest numbers guy in the world is going to say, let's see, I don't want to say anything to alienate my KKK base. Even if he was the most racist person in the world, he'd never say all Mexicans are rapists. Is there any intelligent person that honestly believes Donald Trump went before people and said all Mexicans are rapists? You wouldn't even think it. It's so stupid. And he said over and over during the campaign, I don't blame Mexico. I don't blame China for the bad trade deals. I would take advantage of too. I blame our leaders. He said it over and over and over again. And now, yeah, there was another lie. He has no ideas. He just whips up these dumb, stupid, his base. His base. What's worse than Donald Trump? His base, right? With no ideas. She has ideas. You and I know you can't name one plank from Hillary Clinton's campaign platform in 2016. Not one. What? I want to make the world a better place. I'm good for women, and she's not. I'm not Donald Trump. I didn't hear one thing, because she was going to play it safe, right? 1948, Thomas E. Dewey. We believe in companionship. In fact, this is her campaign. Thomas E. Dewey in 48, when he lost and thought he'd beat Truman, right, would say, we believe in peace and brotherhood. That's all he said, because he thought he was going to coast to an easy win. She said, this is her whole campaign, we're going to work for children and families and build stronger communities. That was pretty much it. And he took everything else. So what did Trump say during the campaign? Selling out our industries, selling out our manufacturing base with NAFTA and the World Trade Organization, fighting endless wars. That's another thing. In his State of the Union address, the recent State of the Union address, which will go down as one of the great speeches in American history, please watch it for yourself. Don't let the New York Times tell you what it is. Watch it for yourself. Think for yourself. He said a bunch of great things. America will not become a socialist country. The first one. Great nations do not fight endless wars. Great nations do not fight endless wars. Okay, it's like, who are we bombing? Other than the chemical plants that were built by John McCain and John Kerry in Syria for ISIS, they created ISIS. The day Obama was inaugurated, you never heard of ISIS, right? You never heard of Rosebud. The day he left 2017, 8 years later, when Trump was inaugurated as president, this is the Bible, right? They were in 32 countries. They don't exist anymore, okay? You never heard of ISIS the day Obama was inaugurated, January 20th, 2009. So, oh, okay, she has the ideas. She didn't have one idea. He was the one who said, I'm going to lower your taxes. We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to talk to North Korea. But really big, and you got to give credit to Bernie Sanders. He was saying the same thing. We're going to renegotiate and get out of these bad trade deals. When you study Trump, you see that he's been talking this stuff since the 80s. He has envisioned himself as president probably since the 60s, but certainly since the 1980s. And when he was getting ready to meet Putin in Helsinki, some journalist snarkily, did you prepare for this? He said, I've been preparing this my whole life. He's known how he wanted to deal with Russia, so he's on the campaign trail saying great stuff and saying you have been sold out by the Clintons and other people. And the Bushes. They've sold us out to China and Mexico so they could get their campaign contributions because it's what their globalist masters want. They get rich while you get poor. It's true. They get rich with Joe Biden. What do you think they do in Pakistan and China? And his son walks away with $1 billion contract. They sell out our country. That's what Justin Trudeau's doing to Canada. They're all selling it out because they get the campaign contributions, and to move your bones up, you have to do what the globalists want. Now, I'm not going to say this is a fact, but when people say Jerry Brown was setting those fires in California and Rahm Emanuel's making sure those murders are happening in Chicago to make everybody so desperate that they'll give up the nation state and go to the global, like, I just got to think about what our mayor, well, I'm not in the 5 boroughs right now, but de Blasio, what's he doing in New York? Freeing these people and setting that up and taking away, what's going on with Cuomo's doing in New York? Are they actually working to bring down the state and bring down our country, because that's what their globalist masters want. So anyway, it resonated with people. They get rich while you get poor. It's true. That's why you have 43-year-old meth heads running around. It's like there are no jobs. You drive through Ohio and Pennsylvania and North Carolina and upstate New York and even in the Southwest and Tennessee. Where did all the jobs go? We lost 70,000 plants. And the thing is, the people affected by it still think like global elites, New York Times graduate school bubble. Even people not on the coast go, well, it's a global economy, or who cares about those jobs? Because, and I did under Buckminster Fuller, right, we're going to become a service economy. No, no, no. If you're putting that key in the ignition, those steel jobs and copper jobs and mines have to be here. If you're going home and flipping on a light, those jobs have to be here. And it's a total lie that to cooperate globally, we have to give up our jobs. We have rebuilt the other countries. Seriously, by being screwed. And it's simple. China, Mexico, and Canada and the European Union and Japan and Korea can hit us with all those tariffs, and we can't hit them. And they call it free trade. And what did Trump say during the campaign? It's the greatest jobs theft in history. Illegal immigration hurts legal immigrants. It hurts inner city blacks. Do you guys know inner city blacks? I do. They all gripe about it. They don't want the illegals doing this. And there was a snarky meme at Facebook saying the illegal immigrant simultaneously taking your jobs and your benefits. But it's actually true. It's actually true. Both are stolen. Look, you got to come legally. You got to come merit-based. And even if you don't agree with this, you have to love our country. Even if you don't agree with it, it's not fascistic. Are you coming to contribute to our culture or not? We have people who need jobs. We have people who help. We have to bring back our manufacturing base. There is no racial, ethnic component to his immigration plan. He knows more Mexicans and Puerto Ricans than you will ever know. Okay? There is no... So, I went to see his rallies during the campaign, and I did go to the convention in Cleveland, which was a glorious 4 days. I didn't get high, I didn't get laid. Well, I got a little close to... I won't tell you which one. I was a married man. Cleveland, I thought it would be dark. Okay, it's Cleveland, but I gotta go because they might try to take the nomination from me. We had my high school reunion, went there, rented a car for the week. Elena went back to the airport after high school 40th, which was great. She drives back. Unfortunately, I just gotta drive to Cleveland from Buffalo. Just get on 90 and go 160 miles, if that even, 140. Get the old motel that Tamsin and I got when we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. So it's dark and dusk. No, it was beautiful. It was like the Mardi Gras all set up on 4th Street. I said hi to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They sent Democrat spies there. Sherrod Brown was there. Of course, he's senator from Ohio. It's all in Cleveland. And the picture of my father shaking hands with Joe McCarthy in the dugout. That's in Cleveland in 1932, and I traced it because you look at their schedule. They was probably July 32 when the bonus march was going on. Herbert Hoover was president. It was 84 years later, and I'm on my cell phone. Dad, I'm here in Cleveland. And I texted, and Mark and I don't text. For some reason, he texted me, my twin brother. And I said, I'm in Cleveland. He goes, what are you doing in Cleveland? I said, making America great again. I'm telling you, I know you guys don't see it. I do believe in 2 years you will see how great this revolution is. I do believe, followed by the Internet Bill of Rights, hashtag Internet Bill of Rights, right? And we're going to bring down the other media with lawsuits. They're fucked. Trump's pissed off right now. So anyway, too bad when you, Stu and Jay, were here, you didn't see Billy. When you were here, you could have seen the Waldorf Astoria. You know, they have the Al Smith dinner during a presidential campaign, toward the end of the campaign, where they each campaign roasts each other in black tie. Of course, Hillary was in a pink dress. His 18-minute performance. Look, if you can listen to Close to the Edge by Yes for 18 minutes, you can watch 18 minutes, the Al Smith dinner at Waldorf Astoria. Funny point. He fucking raked her over the coals. And people thought he was going to lose, and he won. Jim Ruttenberg, for those of you who like the New York Times, is he still managing editor of the New York Times, wrote that editorial, remember, in 2016, saying, basically, we're not going to tell the truth. So terrible is the threat presented by Donald Trump that we're not going to tell the truth. We have to be biased. I mean, if he's that bad, just tell the truth. But they didn't think that way. Then after the election was over, Ruttenberg puts out an editorial, we're going to return to our journalistic standards. And people just keep believing them. And you saw what the weapons of mass destruction, and you saw the Mueller report, and they pat themselves on the back about being anti-war. Look back. The New York Times always supports war. In fact, I used to tell Jay Gisson and Mark Samuels in the 1980s, both of them separately, looks to me like the New York Times is foursquare behind the apartheid regime in South Africa. Look at their reporting. Every time they mention South Africa, they say, we don't like Mandela. ANC is communist, and they were. We don't like his wife, right? And they haven't renounced violence. Did George Washington renounce violence? Did Abraham Lincoln renounce violence? Did FDR renounce violence? Did JFK? No. Only the saints like Martin Luther King and Gandhi. Oh, Mandela has dark skin, he's supposed to renounce violence? It was just such a bogus argument. When the argument is so bogusly framed, was there obstruction of justice? Look, prosecutors don't exonerate. They say we're gonna indict or we're not. The evidence is there. It's not. Doesn't matter. The whole Russian thing is so stupid. She's the one who sold Russia 1/5 of our uranium. That's why she set up a private server. Comey lied and said there was no intent. There was, but you don't need intent. Just that you violate that law, even negligently, means you go to jail. That's how sensitive classified information is. She sets up a private server to send and receive classified information because she was making a $250 million secretary, selling her position. Hey, Cutter, you need special trade status, get off the terrorist list. Don't worry, I'll make it happen with the UN. You just send a check to the Clinton Foundation. Haiti, the way they screwed people, that's going to come out. And so she actually had the intent. Then she destroys 33,000 emails after getting a subpoena. That means she's lying and she's hiding evidence. They have to reopen the investigation. But you guys are like, oh, there's been enough but her emails. Like it's a silly thing to say. It's so stupid. Come on. I actually have in my list of things to do. Tell them about Bernard Rappaport. Just quickly. So these people just want their country back in Europe, the yellow vests, and what are they called? Alt-right, white supremacists, every day in the media, super nationalist. No. Donald Trump is not a racist. I would never support a racist. He's an economic nationalist. Okay, he's probably been with more black women than I have. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's a bunch. The people yelling out racist right now the most. I can tell you the racist shit they've said and done throughout is the condescending attitude. Okay, the worst thing is that there's this base out there that could never comprehend our urbane complexity. Like, they don't know what oral sex is in Ohio. It's so stupid. The whole country's been hooked in for a long time. They're just as hip as you are, but a lot of them whether they're in whatever state they're in, you know, they want jobs. They want the manufacturing jobs back. They want safe communities. And they're called fascists and white supremacists for saying it. And who's encouraging the violence? Steve Scalise was shot. Rand Paul had his ribs broken. And you have Maxine Waters, a member of the United States Congress, saying go into the restaurant and fuck with them. And these are people just doing their jobs. And then Hillary Clinton said before the midterms, we won't be civil until the midterm, like unless we're not going to be civil. See, that just shows how desperate they are. If you think those people aren't going to jail, how does Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi have? How are they worth $200 million when they make $200,000 a year? You know why? It's called foreign aid. They just vote more and more foreign aid, and they get the kickback from the country and campaign contributions. We'll give you billions of dollars. You give us the kickback. So Trump is peace and prosperity. The establishment doesn't want that. They want you in debt. They want you afraid. They want you confused. They want you medicated. They don't. The press is not there for your edification, your illumination, your education. It's not there. It's there. It's propaganda. It's defending the media is like being a Soviet citizen saying, "Comrade, Pravda would not lie to us." The word Pravda is Russian for truth, right? People think they're getting truth. No, no, no. Hip people who are like, hey man, I see through the military-industrial complex, and you should, hopefully. Not the Fed, they're usually not that hip. I see through, like, the lies and the propaganda, man, and, like, you know, religion is all bad and all that, right? But these people look at the media, print or TV or New York Times, as like, but that's the truth. No, it's not. It's no different than the sitcoms. Sitcoms can give you truth. Sitcoms can tell you we're in LA or something. You can say things factually true to the media. The Ninth Circuit handed down a decision. There was a runoff election somewhere. An old movie star died last night. The World Series starts at 8 o'clock. There's a 3-car pileup on the expressway. Yeah, but the fundamental, what they're trying to get to you is always a lie. To wit, Donald Trump is a racist. He's not a racist. He's an economic nationalist. He's putting citizens first. He's anti-immigrant. No, he's not. 2 of his 3 wives are immigrants. He has more business in Mexico and Puerto Rico. Did he overstate with the Muslim ban? Yeah, but I'd rather have a president who overstates than one who is really hip in his language and never gets anything done. The Mexican judge will rule against me. Yeah, I think he overspoke a bit. But it turns out that judge is part of La Raza, which is the Latin KKK. It's a Latin supremacy. So things turn around. Trump says he's going to do it. He does it. Come on. Come on, the media. Anyone who tells you that North Korea building a railway to the south doesn't mean anything, that demilitarizing their border, they're not flying any more intimidating flights over Japan, or they haven't tested a nuke in 17 months. Anyone who tells you that doesn't mean anything could not be thinking his own thoughts. See, they get smart people to think, not the dumb people, Trump's base. They get smart people to believe stupid shit with, as I say, in this graduate school New York Times matrix. But see, you guys are a bubble. You don't realize most of the countries are involved in citizen journalism, using social media, watching things on their own. I held down a full-time job, got on the elliptical, played music, and wrote a 55,000-word novel. But I watched every speech Trump gave. And you want to know what he's doing now? He sleeps all day or watches TV? Like, are you kidding? Everybody knows Trump's a workaholic. He watches cabinet meetings, watches addresses at the White House, watch what he's doing. It's about creating jobs. And the First Step Act, getting people out of prison that Bill Clinton put in. Jared and Ivanka have done that. The First Step Prison Act, the economic initiative zones in the inner cities. This is all about rebuilding the inner cities, getting black men and women out of prisons. That's what it's all about. I've said all along, but you didn't watch that. You watched your, what am I, Beto O'Rourke now? 10 seconds of Trump on the TV and 15 minutes of Rachel Maddow telling what to think. And I read the New York Times, unfortunately, when I go home on the train, the A section. Aside from the fact that it's nothing but pitting white against black constantly, they're dividers disguised as unifiers, like Hollywood. Aside from that, the lying about Trump is just, it's just unbelievable. First of all, you can hate this guy all you want. He ain't dumb. Anyway, we won't get onto that. Let's see what else. They lied. Yeah, he lied about his inauguration crowd. Right. CNN took aerial photos at 6:45 in the morning. Guys, when you go after Trump, don't try he's not popular. Please. There were like 35,000 people waiting outside who couldn't get in the other night. I'm telling you, he's for the people. Don't you get that? He's peace and prosperity. Other than John McCain and Hillary's chemical plants, what's he bombed? He's destroyed ISIS. We have incredible progress in North Korea. We have 4 million new jobs created. We have the lowest black and Latino unemployment. But you guys are poisoned. You think he's a racist. No, he's not. The establishment and their mouthpieces are in the media. It's just propaganda. Don't want peace and prosperity. They don't want you to know who you are. You're a hero. You have wings. You can fly. You're supposed to soar. See, I think I said this before, but in addition to the awful conspiracy to keep, in entropy, to keep you weighted down so that you never know who you are, which is a God who uses your mind to control your emotions, to create your destiny, right? They don't want you to know that. Then you can't be gulled. And what are we talking about? If it were 1519 instead of 2019, and someone said to you, look, we all know it's the Pope in power in the church, the king and the throne, and these bankers. I mean, that's what our country was founded on, defeating those. Like, no one would say you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. They'd say, yeah. All I'm saying is the same vectors that we're fighting, the same forces. And they do all the evil things that royalty does. Sending children into forests naked and hunting them down like animals, yes. We're their food to them and their energy slaves. If you want to move your bones up, you got to be like royalty. It doesn't matter whether you're a leftist, and your Bible is Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals. That's Obama and Hillary. They're Maoists on the left to bring down the country in every way, culturally, using regulations to destroy our business. And McCain and Obama, I know you're not going to believe it, importing inferior steel and aluminum so we have inferior fighting capacity and selling our nukes to other countries with the express purpose of engaging in a nuclear World War III. You see, you're going to say I'm crazy when I say Trump is actually a greater president than Lincoln. I know you're going to think it's crazy, but it's true. Not even Lincoln saved the world from nuclear World War III, and Trump's freeing more slaves. The issue of a certain kind of slavery and slavery is going to come up more and more in the next few years. You wait and see. We couldn't prosecute fully because we didn't have a clean CIA, FBI, DOJ, State Department, not to mention the federal courts. The judges, that had to be changed. No, doesn't James Comey look like Hammer? You got to admit, Hammer and Jim Comey, and they're fucked. Comey, McCabe, Brusinelli, Orr, Brennan, Clapper, Sally Yates, Loretta Lynch. They activated, and we know the orders came from Obama, but we'll see, activated federal agencies to bring down a presidential candidate and to bring down the President of the United States, a coup. They activated federal agencies and tried to make it legal with FISA warrant. The FISA declass is going to be huge. Let's see, talk about Big Bill Brunzi. These are notes, but I just want you to know, this is about rebuilding the inner city. This is about being racist. That's so stupid. It's like we don't want another civic center with ping pong. We don't want another federally funded housing project where nobody owns anything and nobody cares. We don't need more lectures on diversity. We get it. We're being divided by the powers, by the people who say they're there to unite us. They're the dividers. I saw some of those Hollywood ceremonies. They're dividers disguised as unifiers. That's all they're doing. And that's their job. It's my job. Let me see. The show pick of Brexit, yes or no. Forbes proof that Trump's father gave him $100. Nobody can still name a Donald Trump lie. You can get all the lists you want. They're bogus. They'll say that he said he'd build a wall. Before he was elected, they had their lists at Politico and PolitiFact and New York Times. They're so bogus. Basically, those lists are, he said he'd meet the Mexican ambassador on Thursday, and he met him on Wednesday. The fact is, he said, I'm going to knock the hell out of ISIS, and he did. We're going to rearrange everything in North Korea, and he did. I'm going to lower your taxes, and he did. And the big tax cut's still coming. I'm going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Not quite yet, but we're going to do it. Why? What's the plan? The press lies as he doesn't have one. Is block grant Medicare and Medicaid into the states so states have more control. Let me tell you, local control of education, I now get it. I now get it why those people, and I want something clear, they get it, because you don't want education in the hands of strangers and bureaucrats. You want education, as Trump said during the campaign, in the hands of people who love our children. I was going to go off on something else, central banking. I would say stop reading articles about something like QAnon or Alex Jones. Go see for yourself. You put together the internet's a library. I'm sure you noticed we were lucky. We had a library built near us and the bookmobile didn't have to come anymore. And we went by 1969. I was 10 years old. And Even then I noticed there's crap in a library. There's going to be crap in the internet. I noticed there's cheap stuff, but a library opens up. Like I know someone who used to have a lot of money and always buy books. Always buy books. I'd say, doesn't she ever go to a library? And instead of reading the books the New York Times tells her to read, do you ever just go to a library and immerse yourself in that knowledge? No. I used to say, these people, they go and they read the books on the New York Times bestseller list. Actually, it's, except the exception, I guess, would be Jay, was no, they buy the books on the New York Times bestseller. They have to be seen carrying around New York Times bestseller list. That means you're reading the books the New York Times wants you to read. You know, I'm talking in terms of nonfiction. I'm talking in terms of information, history, and stuff. Study Andrew Breitbart. Study Andrew Breitbart. He was the one who called certain things out. He's interesting. He called out Podesta as a world-class child trafficker in 2011. He died mysteriously shortly after. He exposed Obama. He said we're gonna vet him for the 2012 election. You got to know Barack Obama is a cold-blooded murderer. The Clintons are cold-blooded murderers, and when you realize that. I don't think anyone here likes the Bushes and the Cheneys. They're cold-blooded murderers. When you realize that the Clinton and Obamas are no different. See, the guy they've got, look, you can talk about mafia, although he fought the mafia, Trump. He fought the Russian mafia. He's in with Giuliani, don't you see? And I'd like Giuliani again. Now, I am not a conservative, in case you want to know. I am a constitutionalist. Okay? Bob Dylan is not above labels. He once even called himself a rock and roll star. Do you think you're blessed? He goes, yeah, I do. But not because I'm a big rock and roll star. He said that. Of course he's a folk singer. Of course he's a poet. You can label him. He is a Jeffersonian nationalist. Not the nationalism where you bomb countries, enslave their people, and steal their resources. Okay? The new nationalism where you put yourself above, you put the concerns of your workers and your citizens above all else. Sorry, we're putting our citizens above these people come illegally. And some of the people storm the gate and like, hey, marching to our country under the flag of a foreign power? See, you guys lost more truck on the government shutdown than you think. Americans aren't stupid. They saw that Senator Barack Obama and Senator Hillary Clinton and Chuck and Nancy 13 years ago supported the building of a wall at 4 times the money Trump is asking. And Trump is also, with that wall asking, he's got the Dreamers, he's got DACA covered, everything you wanted. And people saw that and said, you're full of shit. You know, a wall, every worker on the southern border, over 50% of whom are Latinos, say it. There's a huge crisis. They say most of the drugs is captured in the ports of entry. Those are the ones that are captured. You look at those borders, there are 78,000 people crossed illegally in our country from the south just in February. 1 month. Where are those jobs coming from? Where are those benefits coming from? Where are those housings coming from? You got to be, even if you disagree, it's not fascism. We want you to come legally. It has to be merit-based. And sometimes even legal immigration has to be cut down. We have to put our tax-paying citizens first. And that's what Orban is saying, and I'm sounding like Steve Bannon, in Austria, what Salvini's saying in Italy, what Brexit is about, what the yellow vests are all demonstrating for. And they're called alt-right white nationalists. No, they want their countries back. They don't want no-go rape zones. And you know what? The U.S. is going to go and save Europe for a third time. But it's Trump, which means he's going to do it with negotiation. He's going to do it, and he'll bring them down. He's bringing down the clerics in Iran. But you also have to know, art of war, the art of the deal. Get it? Sun Tzu, the art of war, the first person quoted, along with Kipling by Bob Dylan after 9/11. Asked specifically at 9/11, he quotes Gentleman Rakers by Kipling and Sun Tzu, I think he's before Christ, 9th century, the art of war, Chinese strategist, right? The art of war, the art of the deal. You get it? It's like, you defeat your enemy before you even start. Trump has planned what he's going to do, which is bringing down the global New World Order since the 80s. He's negotiated with China more than anybody else. He's had politicians, hacks, come up and beg him for money. He gave money, huge money to Hillary and Chuck Schumer and Mitt Romney. Everybody, Rand Paul, the people who badmouth. He gave money. He's done this. He's done more for civil rights and black people. He admits in the 70s when he was sued, he said, we do not rent to welfare people. It wasn't color, it wasn't race, and don't believe there was a Woody Guthrie song about his father. No 37-year-old Woody Guthrie would write a song about a 44-year-old Fred Trump called old man Trump. Doesn't make sense. The only time you'd call a 44-year-old man an old man is if he's in the NHL or the NBA. Then he's an old man. You would call someone an old man to distinguish him from his famous son. Donald was 3 at the time. It's a lie. And when I confronted Will Kaufman, who said there was a Woody Guthrie song about Fred Trump, Donald Trump, he just goes, yeah, and by the way, fuck you. I said, you're a liar. There's no, and I smelled a rat from the beginning. Old man Trump is doing it. It doesn't sound like Woody. It's not, I found it in his hand. You're a liar. Go to Will Kaufman's page. It's all anti-Trump. What a coincidence. He's researching Woody Trump, and a guy who's super anti-Trump finds this Fred Trump song about Fred Trump, and he's super pro-pharma, Will Kaufman. So there's people all over Facebook. You want to get thrown off Facebook? Come out against 80 vaccines. 1, 2, 3 vaccines, fine. Not 30 on a little kid and 70 by the time he leaves high school. Of course it's evil. They make you sick. They keep you coming back. And it's what the whole thing is: depopulation, world war, global government. You're being controlled. But remember, there's that conspiracy above it all. The universal conspiracy, the universe conspires to your benefit. There's something to counter entropy, syntropy. There's something to counter the crucifixion, the resurrection. There's something to counter it. Consciousness, surviving life, or whatever way you want to do it. The human mind restores. Listen, what is a feeling? A feeling is the body's reaction to a thought. So of course you want to be open and feeling, but to manage your states, to use your mind to moderate and control like wild horses. The master has to control your emotions and your crazy thoughts. And then your body isn't supposed to push to make things happen. It's supposed to experience that which the mind in concert with the heart has created. So you got to change your thoughts. That's what it's about. I forgot how we got onto that. This is all over the place. Look. Zombies, QAnon zombies. Who's more zombie than someone who waits for the New York Times to tell you what to think? Or Rachel Maddow, or even PBS, Democracy Now!, NPR. NPR and PBS do great things. Their news is still BS. It's still the same centralized news. I mean, come on. We won't go into Barbara Streisand and all that. Barbara Streisand, I mean, isn't it obvious that evil now controls the narrative where they're pushing pedophilia? Come on, it's everywhere. The whole transgender thing to get little girls in the same bathrooms with boys. Anyway, I'm not saying this is everything Trump represents the end of that, but it's when was America great? When we had, maybe it's the age of Jackson, maybe it's before 1914, but we just want that same good feeling, but inclusive, where no one's left out. And you know what? Here's an important thing. I should close. Oh my God, almost an hour. Who the hell is going to listen to this whole thing? When you study the Federal Reserve and central banking, before Rand Paul, when you study that, you're not so much a socialist anymore. You realize that government programs to give things away, whatever way you want to look at it, are not the answer. When we say the Jeffersonian Nation-State, the victory of Trump is about the triumph of the reassertion of the primacy of the nation-state. What we mean is the Bill of Rights, and no central bank. That's key. And that's going to come down, I think. Or maybe they'll keep it and reconstitute the Federal Reserve. But that's why they all hate him, you see. He's the changer. You can talk about mafia this. They can't buy him. They can't control him. He's peace and prosperity, Donald Trump. He can't be controlled. And he's going out for justice. And he's out for blood now. Look. One of the dumbest things going around lies is that Hillary Clinton is really, really smart. Well, you can't name many, even one smart thing she's done. But she spent $2 billion of other people's money in her campaign. Most of that money was on negative TV ads. This is in 2016. Other people's money, and she lost. Donald Trump spent 1/10 of that, largely his own money. That's the story they don't talk about. He spent 1/10 of what she spent, and he tweeted for free, and he won. See, he didn't need even what the Bushes need. The Bushes still need campaign cash, and they still need the media. He doesn't need either of them. He beat the media, too, when he won in 2016, and he will win with over 400 electoral votes in 2020. I think it could be even over 500, but we'll see. We'll see, because the anti-Trump sentiment is strong, even though you guys are more minority than you think. You've got your bubble media telling you that you're the sensible, rational ones. You're not. Look at you anti-Trump people. You're violent as hell, and you can't put together an argument. You jump up and down, and you run out of the room almost every time. Almost every time. Well, that's almost it. I'm sure I'm going to turn this off after an hour. I've never done anything like this. An hour. And say I should have said more or done more. But none of us here, we're not pushing racism. I've been playing well. So, rebuilding the inner cities, bringing jobs and dignity back, making education local, getting rid of these dumb regulations, State of the Union address. Great nations do not fight endless wars. America will never become a socialist country. Even if you disagree with that, you have to understand how that resonated with so many people. Again, I was kind of we were all kind of socialists. You will not be so much of a socialist when you study central banking and see what it's like. If you just give us our Jeffersonian democracy without a central bank, we will thrive. That's what it's about. And this idea, paradoxically, is going global. It's the nation state we want. The nation state, the Jeffersonian nation-state, is the newborn baby with wild wolves all around it. I don't know why Patti Smith was sent there to get Dylan's Nobel Prize. Probably didn't want to be around a bunch of child-eating, pedophile, evil, disgusting royalists, maybe. I don't know. Look at him with Prince Charles. But I'm not saying consciously she tripped up over that. Remember, she tripped up over that line from Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. I saw a newborn baby with wild wolves all around it, and she had to do it again. And it was charming, really, that she tripped up. She maybe wasn't used to that kind of band. And then, why that line? Because also we know Luciferian child ritual killers are the ones being routed out. See, Trump is greater than Lincoln, number one, because not even Lincoln saved the world from nuclear devastation, which was absolutely the globalist New World Order plan. The New World Order globalist plan is to turn the entire planet into the Third Reich, okay, the Fourth Reich. I'm telling you the truth. That's what he stopped. We love him. We'll never give up. And we know he saved us from nuclear devastation. We know that the Jeffersonian nation-state is where it's at. And number two, he's the greatest evil in the history of the world. In the history of the world is being eradicated from the face of the earth. In the history of the world. And you will be seeing that, what that's all about. Put it this way. They have all the attributes of royalty, these people. They see you as their food. They see you as their energy slaves. And a key thing is going to be the premium for body parts, and the premium was always a black boy. And when people realize these people who've been their advocates fighting against racism are really dividers and evil people, and I'm beginning to think even the transatlantic slave trade beginning in the 17th century had to do with getting the black boy, getting their body parts. That's why Planned Parenthood wants that super late abortion. They want the body parts. So you guys blew it on immigration. You blew it on infanticide. You can say whatever you want. The country heard that, and they're turned off. That governor who was in blackface or dressed like the Klan said the infant will be kept comfortable. And you guys said infanticide. You have open anti-Semitism in your Congress, and you don't even do anything about it. And you're openly pushing socialism and open borders. You don't understand what a turnoff that is. And you don't have anybody but Beto O'Rourke and a bunch of frauds. Run Al Gore with Bernie Sanders. They'll still lose. Run Al Gore and his roommate his running mate Bernie Sanders. But you guys won't. The Dems never did do that, and the Republicans. So, not even Lincoln freed as many slaves. So, the comparison with Trump and Sinatra doesn't quite fit, but it's close. And with Lincoln, it's different because Lincoln is this dark, mysterious. I don't think he was melancholic, as they said. He wasn't. But it's tough, the position he was in. And Martin Luther King, too. If Martin Luther King is such a saint, how come he suffered? Read what he said. Sleepless nights. Gurdjieff, too. Sleepless nights. Well, because they're taking on a huge task. See, let me jump a little. Bob Dylan was never about let's all hold hands and have a one world and get together, even though he sang with Joan Baez. And they sang his song down at the Lincoln Memorial, August 28th, 1963, the day of the I Have a Dream speech. But he's not into that, holding hands and all this stuff. Bob Dylan is not that. It's different from the John Lennon, George Harrison, Ram Dass mystery stream, possibly Martin Luther King stream. Maybe that's a little different. Bob Dylan is about defeating evil. And I think Martin Luther King is about defeating. Of course, we want that world. And Steiner says that, Rudolf Steiner. We're not at the phase yet where we can just dig on each other and do work that we absolutely love. Not that you shouldn't do all those things and make love, beautifully and sumptuously. Not that you shouldn't do that and relax and have beautiful feasts and kick back at night watching reruns of Columbo. That time will come. Now we defeat evil with iron. With iron. That's the force. That iron makes blood red and plants green. That's why you use red and green at Christmas time. But everyone is hip to Christmas, kind of. And everyone's hip to the first day of summer. And we all know the first day of spring with Eastern Passover. The festival we have to have, which the Europeans and British had, is Michaelmas. So like Christmas, Michaelmas, Michaelmas. Archangel Michael, Hebrew word. But the Christian way of looking at it would be the iron sword of St. Michael. That's what Dylan's about. And I believe Trump is the iron sword of St. Michael. I don't think God interferes in our daily affairs. It doesn't make sense. Why would he get involved in our fights? But I do think there are angels and saints of people who died before us, pockets of things. I know I'm surrounded by a pocket of intelligence, much smarter than I am, that has gotten, you could, as Lou Reed said in his very last, really final great work, even though he did great stuff after '03, but The Raven, I've got called Guardian Angel, and all these beautiful, great driving songs, thoughtful, powerful things than these soft ballads, but they're great. Lou Reed, The Raven, so great, and he had a song called Guardian Angel. I've got a guardian angel. That's what this is all about. I don't believe God intervenes. I remember Lynn Gisson said, well, Martin Luther King, he came from God. And I understand that, and Abraham Lincoln, but why would God create this racist slavery? But I do think you have people fighting for you, people who were once in your life, maybe your great-grandmother, father that you never met, people still alive on the earth now, people not born yet. Your kids, they're there, and our task is to bridge with love or whatever the gap, the gulf between the living there. That's what the bridges of not Tucker, the bridge at St. Louis Ray was the bridge between the living and the dead. I do believe that we are seeing the iron sword of St. Michael fighting the greatest evil of our time, these evil Luciferian child killers who we called royalty for years, who then became the Vatican, the theocratic, then the aristocracy, and now it's Wall Street and Hollywood and Techville, and still all those other people, the Vatican, and we're fighting them. We're defeating them. That's why they have put in so much resistance on Trump. But we've already won. We know. It's just the people, the kind of the normies who read the news and think it's real. It has to catch up with them. But, Donald Trump is not a sexual predator. He's a Frank Sinatra-style womanizer. He'll buy you an apartment. He'll furnish it. He'll... be interested. Jackie O, who got to know intimately, right, Sinatra, eventually, what did she say? Jackie O said about Sinatra, he was the most sensitive man I've ever met. Now, Trump, I don't quite see that, but he's not the boorish guy. He's not going to be in a bath, say, hey, jerk me off or something. He's not going to be, he's never denied anybody their career, woman career, because they didn't do something. There's no pattern in practice with him. There's just Gloria Allred making false claims. Or maybe he tried to kiss me in the elevator. So stop all this nonsense. I mean, seriously? People go to rallies with pussy hat. You took time to actually knit one, pearl two, pussy hats? Josie and the pussy hats? Like, what's wrong with you people? What's wrong with you people? Don't let the media turn you into a zombie. It's the media that's turning you into a zombie, not QAnon. I know the New York Times. Most of you know the New York Times. I know QAnon. Most of you don't know QAnon. You won't even look at it. You run away from it. Fine, I don't care. Think you're making points by insulting QAnon, not even knowing what you're talking about, but you're falling into a McCarthyism. Hysteria, right? The people who engender war, poverty, disease, and death don't want you to think. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to think for yourself. They want hysteria. And I get it. Snow day in Buffalo. A teacher didn't show up today. There's a flood. When you're a little kid, you think a flood is cool. When you get older, a flood's not so cool. Right? I get it. You like the hysteria, but come on, now things have to change, right? Men can't be careless. Women and children can be careless. Men can't be careless. Now, of course, that's not true, but adults, mature adults, children maybe can be careless. We can't be careless. Come on. Don't be hysterical. That's crazy. Honestly, does any of you here think it's courageous to go somewhere and oppose Trump? Of course. Is it particularly courageous? No. They're giving it to you with your mother's milk. They're giving it to you in the kindergartners in their lesson plans. They're telling, oh my God, Donald Trump. It's in the arts and leisure sections now. Opera in the age of Trump. What does that tell you? That means he's the real disruptor. He's the real change. And it's about reaffirming the primacy of the nation-state with no national bank. It's not about isolationism. It's about not bombing and occupying other countries. Who are we occupying? Most presidents, 2.25 years into the presidency, they've already bombed a bunch of countries. Not this one, except for the chemical plants built by John McCain, over there, and it's all going to become clear. And in 2 years or so, most of you, you're going to see it. You're going to say, this is it wasn't what I thought. I was lied to by the media. We were lied to greatly by education. And this is about our true freedom, our true independence, you know. And remember, remember, Internet Bill of Rights is coming. I'm sure I'll think of things I should have said, but oh my God, it's already been 68 minutes. I'm almost sorry for taking up your time. We'll talk soon.